So you've decided that medical tourism is right for you. What next? Welcome to the Healthcare Secrets Podcast. Hi, everyone. John Daly here, along with Judd Anglin, and we are talking about one of Judd's expertises, medical tourism is right for you. And today, we're going to get into how to plan the logistics of a medical journey outside of your area. Again, it could be outside of your area within the country, but it could also be outside of the country. You have three basic rules, but before we get to them, talk about why planning is so important to
John, that's it's the most important thing is planning. There's a lot of pieces that go into medical tourism. If you think about it, you've got obviously all the travel logistics, scheduling the operation, communicating with the doctor, getting files, X-rays, MRIs, anything like that over to the hospital and the doctor. So there's just so much that goes into it.
Okay, good. Let's get into the three basic rules of planning medical tourism. The first you say is the $6,000 rule. Explain that.
Yes, $6,000 rule. That's a very important rule, and it starts like this. If you can get a procedure here in the U.S., let's say it's a deviated septum or a facelift, and you can get that procedure for $6,000 in the U.S., you're really not going to save any money by traveling abroad because you have to factor in all the ancillary costs, like the flight, the hotels, ground transportation, room and board. So once you figure all those in, if it's $6,000 or less, you're really not going to see any savings. In fact, you may be spending more. However, I will add to that we've had some clients that didn't care about that. And what they wanted to do, for example, is go down to Health City, Cayman Islands for a physical. One of these comprehensive where they do the MRI scan of the torso, cardiac, and all those things. And the savings will be so great that it will pay for the plane ticket. So they're still going to be spending money, but at least it would pay for a plane ticket down to the Caymans.
Yeah, and that's the important thing to realize. Okay, cool. So money's one thing. Okay. The second rule you call is the logistic rule. Explain that.
Yes. Now, this is important because, like I was saying in the opening here, there's a lot of logistics that go into it. Of course, you're going to have flights that you have to schedule. You're going to have to communicate with the hospital and again, get any kind of MRIs or X-rays over to the hospital. You're going to have to schedule the operation date, the pre-op consultation. Then, most likely, you're going to stay in the hospital several days. And then once you're released from the hospital, you got to stay in a hotel. And you can imagine if let's say the doctor says you're fine to go 2 or 3 days before you had planned to be released from the hospital, then you've got to communicate with the hotel and see if they have space available because you booked it for 2 or 3 days later. Or the opposite could happen where the doctor says, you know what, I'd really like to keep you in the hospital another couple nights, and you have the hotel planned. So you can see this can all become a big headache if it's not done. A very methodic and laid out plan. And that's really one of our strengths at MedRetreat is that we help the clients take care of all those logistics.
And you can literally hold their hand the whole way, and that's what you do.
Absolutely. We set up our process so every step of the way we're there to serve our clients, to reduce stress. And that's so important because we all know that, when you reduce stress, results are better and you have a speedier recovery. So you want to try to mitigate the stress as much as possible when traveling abroad. It's not as simple as a vacation. You could simplify it and say, I'm just going to travel to the Caymans or I'm going to go to Malaysia. I'm going to get a hip replacement. So let me make a couple calls. It's not like that at all. And you never want to do it that way because you could have a serious, stressful experience, and you don't want to do that.
Okay. I'm John Daly. This is Judd Anglin, and we are on the Healthcare Secrets Podcast. Okay, let's get into the third rule of medical tourism. You call it do your homework. This kind of makes sense. Give us some examples of that.
This is so important. And, if you're doing it on your own or doing it through a medical tourism facilitation agency like MedRetreat, you're going to have a lot of homework to do. And what I mean, and there's a reason for that, a very important reason. And here it is. Let's say you want to get a hip replacement. You just don't do your homework. You buy a ticket and you say, I'm going to go to the hospital and let them do the pre-op consultation, let them do the scans. Well, you have several problems that you're going to run into, likely. Number one, is the surgeon available? And is the OR available? Maybe it's already booked during the time that you're there, so you're going to have to wait many days or even a week. The second thing is what you want to try to do, and this is where homework comes in so important. You want to try to get a price, the actual cost of the surgery, before you buy the plane ticket. Because you don't want to be in a situation where it's guesswork. You don't really know. You think you're going to have, save 60, 70, 80%. You go there, let's say everything works out and you get to have the surgery. But during the pre-op consultation, they say, oh, it's going to cost X. But in your case, it's going to cost more than that. Now, I'm not saying that, doctors would try to take advantage of it, but you totally leave it open to that if you haven't done your homework. And by doing your homework, you make contact with either, a company like MedRetreat, start working with them, or you contact the hospital directly. And, as we mentioned in the previous podcast, most of these hospitals, their websites are completely in English. They have phone numbers. Some of them even have U.S. Toll-free numbers. You can call and speak to somebody and start working with them directly. Now, they're not going to provide a hand-holding experience like MedRetreat does, but, you can go directly. So anyway, you start working with them. You want to go to your local doctor or a local surgeon. You want the x-rays. You want the MRIs. You want all the information. You want a treatment plan from a U.S. doctor. And it's going to cost you a little bit. There's going to be an investment. You might pay $300, $500, even up to $1,000 to get all the information that you need so that when you start communicating with the doctor or the hospital, you can send them everything. And you want the surgeon to review everything and come back with his or her treatment plan and let you know how much it's going to cost.
Now, everything you've gone through, everything you've just talked about, I can see a small amount of people who are just, I'm not going to say control freaks, but they're people who I like to arrange my thing. There's some people who love to do their own travel, whether it's medical tourism or not, and they want to control everything because they enjoy doing that. I've got to think that the majority of people who have decided on medical tourism, who are going to have a medical procedure, would love to be stress-free. And that's why going to someone like you who can do all these things, just getting x-rays, just getting things from your doctor, that can be stressful right then and there. So I've got to think that just picking up the phone and calling MedRetreat would just make sense to at least get some ideas or to say, you know what, I'm going to put it in your hands. And it doesn't cost them any more because you're actually working with the hospitals, correct?
That's absolutely correct. I mean, we try to make it as simple and inexpensive as possible to our clients. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. I mean, during our initial consultation with someone that's considering medical tourism, we put them at ease. We answer all their questions in a free conversation. And then when they're ready to move forward and they're very serious about it, we do ask that they send us a $195 commitment fee. Now, here's the thing, though. When you start working with us, we get all the documentation over to the hospital and they come back with a quote and you agree to move forward, you're ready to book the ticket. What we do is that $195 commitment fee, we put it on your invoice. We subtract it from the total cost. So it's really free. You're not paying anything. We just have to make sure that, you're not just kicking tires and you're just curious. And because once we start working with you, we're going to be getting files from you. We're going to be spending a lot of time. And then also, we're going to be working with a surgeon. Obviously, their time is very critical. So they don't want to, review and come back with a full treatment plan and find out the next day, I'm sorry, that person didn't want to move forward. So, but John, you're absolutely right. I mean, we have a very fine-tuned process that we walk clients through. And we've been doing this for 15 years. So we have it down to a science.
And let me jump in here too, Judd, and explain, because you have sent me to the Cayman Islands, Health City, Cayman Islands. You also sent me to Glen Eagles in Penang, Malaysia. Now, I was not going to get any procedure. I'm going there because of Undercover Jet Setter. We wanted to cover the medical tourism. We wanted to cover these different areas, as well as showing, touristy things that were going on there, but also what the industry is going on there. What was fascinating to me was that you opened the doors and these people greeted us with not only, hey, come on in, but we're bringing our iPhone cameras in there and we're shooting in the midst of all the stuff. And they were very open to it. So what I would say is, just so people understand this, is that these hospitals want you going to Med Retreat. And I'll tell you why. Because they don't want novices who are the patients, who are going to be emotional, who don't get it, who don't understand what's going on. You want to go to a professional who's going to represent you so that you are stress-free. You don't need to start coming up with new tools or new skills, because you're not going to be doing medical tourism all the time. Judd is, and that's why they need to do it. Also, the other thing is that these hospitals that you send folks to, these are high-end, high-quality, with great medical care, and the last thing they want is something to go wrong with an American patient. That's why these hospitals want Med Retreat involved in what they're doing. Talk about that.
John, thanks for bringing that up. You're absolutely right. I mean, that is, the last thing they want is, like you said, somebody that comes over and just has a complete emotional meltdown, because that's very difficult for everyone to deal with. So, and that's why we stated in our last podcast about medical tourism that first determine if it's right for you. If you're the type of person that, thinks that you could have an emotional meltdown, you've never traveled outside the U.S. before, you think you're going to, just a very bad, hospital, doctors that are less experienced than here in the U.S., that's not the case at all. In most cases, you're going to be going to hospitals, just depending on the country that you choose to go to, they're all going to be pristine, like advanced facilities, very modern, very clean, and very service-oriented. I mean, there are differences, but the differences are to be relished. I mean, they're really amazing, John. I think you can back me up here that they've moved beyond where we are in our system, because we're so highly regulated that we've become autotrons, right? Like it's very robotic here. And a lot of times they're not focused on the service. Yeah, they might be very nice to you, but when you go to a place like Malaysia or the Cayman Islands, their service, you feel like you're going to some elite country club or something. It's unbelievable, the level, the smiles, the attention. They're seeking so much to please you.
And I was going to say, and they want to, because it's a better outcome for them and for you. So before we wrap things up here, again, everything you need to know about the secrets of medical tourism. We're going to have more on some of the hospitals and locations you can pick, our favorites, we would say, in our next couple of podcasts. And Judd, just kind of tease folks. We're going to hear from some customers who use these facilities as well. Just give folks a little tease on that.
Absolutely. I'm going to bring on some past clients of mine that had truly amazing experiences. I want to bring on a client that had a multi-level total disc replacement of the spine, a lady that went for a double hip replacement. I'm going to bring on people that have had full body makeovers, with cosmetic surgery.
Cool. All right. Perfect. Judd, thanks. Our website is healthcaresecretspodcast.com. You can get Judd's book. It's called The Big Book of Healthcare Secrets. There is also a lot of medical tourism in there that you can cover as well. And we go by the same names on Facebook and YouTube, which is the Healthcare Secrets Podcast. On Twitter, it is a little bit different. It is Healthcare SEC and the number 1. All right, folks, please stay healthy. Judd, we'll talk next time.
Sounds good, John.